If you're the kind of person who believes in Hollywood myths and idolizes all the old classic stars, we'd like to suggest you keep an open mind while watching this video. This video has the potential to upset some of Judy Garland's diehard fans who remember her fondly as little Dorothy Gale of The Wizard of Oz. But by the time she was 16 and making Oz, she'd already been through the MGM ringer. Judy's early years foreshadowed the difficult road ahead of her. Judy was born Frances Ethel Gumm on June 10, 1922, in Grand Rapids, Minnesota. She had two older sisters, Suzanne and Virginia. Their father, Frank Gumm, was a closeted gay man. The family packed their things and moved to California when Judy's father was accused of seducing local boys. Judy was a talented singer, and by the age of 3, she was already performing with her sisters as the Gumm sisters. They became a huge hit in the vaudeville scene and appeared in several film shorts together. Judy was offered a contract with MGM Studios in September of 1935. Just 2 months later, her father died of spinal meningitis. She was then given supporting roles in Everybody Sing and Broadway Melody in 1938. According to her close friend Mickey Rooney, when Judy was just 15, 38-year-old Spencer Tracy was regularly seducing her. Mickey revealed that Judy had told him what was going on, and pretty much everyone else at the studio knew about it. His abuse, because let's just call it what it was, went on for 3 years. She was the victim of one of Hollywood's many sleazy, selfish predators. Everyone on the inside could clearly see what sort of person Tracy was, but the public had no clue what was going on. Hey, if you're enjoying this video so far, be sure to give it a like, and subscribe to Facts First if you haven't already. And stick around to see how a tragic accident sent Judy Garland down a dark road of drugs and depravity that led her to nothing but pain and suffering. Drugs consumed her at a young age. In 1938, Judy was involved in a serious car accident that left her badly injured. She sustained several broken ribs, a punctured lung, and back injuries that would trouble her for the remainder of her life. Studio doctors didn't think twice about sending her right back to work 8 days later. They pumped her full of drugs to help ease the pain, but she obviously would have benefited from taking some time off to recover. By the time she was working on Wizard of Oz in the fall of 1938, she was already hopelessly addicted to the pills her doctor gave to her like candy. And to maintain her petite figure, she was only allowed to eat soup and cottage cheese. To hide her breasts, the studio ordered her to wear a painful and humiliating truss. MGM kept her working like a dog for 15 hours a day, loading her up with Benzedrine, which is basically just pharmaceutical methamphetamine, and phenobarbital, a dangerous central nervous system depressant, in order to make it through her shifts. They'd also give her a grab bag of other drugs, like Seconal and amphetamines, to keep her performing like their little puppet. She took sleeping pills to catch just a few hours of sleep before guzzling down uppers to keep her awake and spry for up to 72 hours at a time. The studio and her handlers couldn't have cared less about her well-being. They just wanted her in front of those rolling cameras. By the time she was 18, she was lost in a pit of hopeless addiction. Howard Stickling, MGM's head of publicity, had her see psychiatrists 5 mornings a week for the next 2 decades. She suffered from severe psychotic episodes, debilitating insomnia, intense hallucinations, crippling headaches, and extreme fatigue. She was also suicidal. Garland sought solace in the company of men and women alike. Judy soon found she desperately needed men in her life, especially older men like Tracy, but if none were available to fit her needs, she would sleep with women. Just how many of her life choices can be directly attributed to her addiction, we'll probably never really know. But what we can say is she was perpetually in a state of confusion and exhausted agitation. She was overworked and treated like a commodity. The only thing people in her orbit saw her as was a moneymaker. They weren't concerned about her happiness or her health. It was around this time Strickling placed Betty Asher as Judy's shadow. He ordered a similar thing when he placed Les Peterson as Mickey Rooney's shadow. Betty, who happened to be the sister of producer and director William Asher of Bewitched and I Love Lucy fame, was also the daughter of acclaimed film producer Ephraim Asher of Universal Studios. Bill Asher later confirmed his sister was indeed bisexual, and she had fallen head over heels in love with Judy. And even though she did once have an affair with Judy's first husband, David Rose, she loved Judy deeply. Failed marriages, bisexual lovers, and her affinity for gay men. When she was 17, Judy became enamored of band leader Artie Shaw, a 2-time divorced wife-beater who easily seduced the young starlet while cheating on her with Lana Turner and various other young women. After Strickling ordered Betty Asher to become Judy's confidant and friend to try to steer her away from Shaw, Betty ended up doing a lot more than that. It's reported she became Judy's lover as well as a spy of sorts, keeping track of her every move and whim. She also taught Garland how to drink per order of MGM's fixer, Eddie Mannix, who thought that a drunk drunk Judy might just divulge more information. Asher would routinely report back to him what she learned, delivering her intel more often than not while sharing his bed. Betty had previously worked with Lana Turner, so she already had the experience needed to steer the naive young blonde towards the ever-so-eager Mr. Shaw. To a lot of people's surprise, Turner and Shaw suddenly got married in 1940. Judy was devastated and immediately slept with Shaw's best friend in a desperate attempt to make her former bedmate jealous. But as it turned out, their marriage only lasted 3 months. Lana, who had become pregnant, hastily arranged for an abortion through Mannix, and after having the procedure done while she was supposedly on a publicity tour in Hawaii, she returned back to the mainland and started sleeping with every attractive male star she could set her sights on. In 1941, Judy and band leader David Rose eloped in Las Vegas. The marriage turned out to be a huge disaster and was over within 4 months. But in that brief window, Judy had become pregnant. MGM then secretly arranged for their star to have an abortion without even giving Rose the courtesy of knowing about her condition. She then moved back in with her old lover, Asher, despite still not being privy to her spying for both Mannix and Strickling. Before long, the two ladies were seen all over LA, shopping, holding hands, going to movies, and attending shows together. Garland's sexuality was a known secret. Garland was definitely not a lesbian, but she was bisexual and had no qualms engaging in intimate acts with either gender. Her last husband, Mickey Deans, revealed that Judy preferred to date gay men. She once even married Vincente Minnelli, who was openly bisexual. In Judy's opinion, women were better at addressing another woman's sexual needs than men, so naturally she preferred women in bed. In 1942, she met Tyrone Power. He was married to the androgynous bisexual actress Annabella, and he was also bisexual. Ty and Judy fell for each other, but since both stars were married to other people at the time, MGM got nervous and devised a plan to break them up. Judy continued to give Betty her total trust until her marriage to Minnelli. Asher had been her maid of honor at her wedding. But when Minnelli let Judy know what Betty had done to her in the past, Judy realized that Asher was not loyal like she long thought she was. She put the pieces together and finally understood she was just a pawn of those snakes in the grass, Howard Strickling and Eddie Mannix. She fired Asher once and for all, leaving her heartbroken and confused. Betty never really recovered from that chapter, and a few years later, she committed suicide. Her brother Bill confirmed she was heartbroken over Judy's shunning of her, and she couldn't bear to live with that fact. On June 22, 1969, Garland was found dead in the bathroom of her rented house in Cardogan Lane, Belgravia, London. The cause of death was determined to be an acute, accidental overdose of barbiturates. Now it's time to hear from you. In the comments section below, share your favorite memory of Judy Garland. And before you go, make sure you give this video a like and subscribe to Factsverse if you haven't already. Click the bell icon to stay updated on all our latest content.